Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Alhamdulillah, nahmadu wa nusalli ala rasulil karim. Saudara Zamri Berkadir, Menteri Pendidikan Tinggi, Timbalan Menteri, Tan Sri Samsudin Osman, sahabat saya Saudara Osman Bakar, Rektor, dan dua tokoh yang terlibat secara langsung dengan upaya mereka menjayakan dua program dan projek utama peluncuran buku Profesor Muhammad Tahir Masawi dan juga peluncuran International Institute of Future Studies Profesor Zainuddin Sardar. Acara ini memang sangat bermakna kerana pertama ia berusaha untuk memperkenalkan, menghebahkan, mendorong kefahaman yang lebih mendalam tentang seorang filsuf pemikir utama dunia Islam mutakhir ini, almarhum Malek Bennabi. Pemikiran beliau itu mencabar pemikiran konvensional, menghimbau ke depan bagaimana umat boleh bangkit dengan kekuatan baru, membina kekuatan dalaman yang selalu beliau ungkapkan sebagai inner struggle of conscience. Dan saya bermanfaat kerana saya banyak melontarkan idea-idea beliau sejak saya di ABIM lagi, Menteri Pendidikan, sehingga sekarang. Dan bila Saudara Osman singgung tentang seminar pada 1991, saya masih ingat karya beliau yang di antara yang utama, Wajhatul Alam Islami, yang diterjemah oleh Asma Rashid, Profesor Asma Rashid, yang kemudian menjadi salah satu teks penting dalam gerakan kita. Kemudian kita juga akan meluncurkan International Institute of Future Studies. Kita dalam keadaan umat dan negara kita di persimpangan, sama ada mengekalkan pemikiran kita dan ketergantungan kita dengan pola pemikiran sekarang, atau memberi ruang untuk pemikiran tentang apa yang disebut pengajian masa depan, future studies. Dan sebab itu saya mendukung usul ini supaya meletakkan dunia akademik kita, terutamanya IIUM, supaya sama bukan sahaja memanfaatkan daripada pemikiran semasa, tetapi memikirkan meneka masa depan yang terombang-ambing, yang tidak menentu, cabaran persekitaran dan iklim yang berubah hebat dan kencang, geopolitik yang tidak menentu, politik yang sudah terhakis nilai kebenaran yang disebut post-truth. Ini semua harus difaham untuk memahami dunia yang mencabar, termasuk teknologi baru yang sukar diteka, seperti mana berlaku dengan penguasaan AI Amerika Syarikat dan penguasaan baru oleh kekuatan AI dari negara China. Jadi kita hadir di sini dalam acara yang sederhana. Terima kasih kepada Saudara Osman Bakar dan IIU, tetapi memberikan suatu dampak yang tinggi dari sudut dunia ilmu, memanfaatkan pemikir ulung yang berasal dari Algeria, dan juga memperkenalkan seperti mana atas usaha Menteri Zamri, AI faculty, tapi di sini future studies, kerana ia memberikan asas bagi kita berfikir cara berani dan matang, dan tidak hanya melepaskan tanggungjawab kepada kalangan lain untuk menentukan. So may I take this opportunity again to express my profound thanks and gratitude to the university, and of course Professor Tahir Seri, long-term friend, although we had deceived one another, but it's nice for Osman to recall the initial meetings that we had, because Malek Bennabi is not too well known outside the academia, which is unfortunate. I remember recently, I think the Qatar University organized another conference to promote its ideas. But what is exceptional to my mind is his Khaldunian understanding. Of course, he's essentially a great student of Ibn Khaldun, but his unique capacity in articulating issues, new challenges, geopolitical, colonialism, etc., but from a profound understanding, grasp of Islam and identity, and values that must be part and parcel of the national struggle in Algeria, and of course for the Ummah. Therefore, it is with pride that I join you today in marking two important milestones: the launch of a Malik Bennabi reader and the establishment of the International Institute of Future Studies. Though distinct, they are connected by a commitment to intellectual renewal, critical inquiry, and the shaping of a just future. They are endeavors that embody the spirit of Malaysia Madani. And thank you, Osman, Zamri, Tahir, and of course Zia. Now, the unveiling of this two-volume work on the ideas and thoughts of Malik Bennabi is a cause for great delight. Bennabi's moral and intellectual convictions have profoundly shaped my own perspectives. So thank you again, Tahir Masawi, for bringing this admirable book to fruition. This may well be the most elaborate or comprehensive exposition of Bennabi's thought to have graced the printed page. It is a work destined to be a cornerstone reference for many years to come. Bennabi's homeland, Algeria, paid a heavy price for its freedom. It stems from a country with 1.5 million martyrs. Yet his vision was never shackled to one land alone. He saw the struggles of Muslims across Asia and Africa as shared struggles. He spoke not just for them, but for all of humanity. The subtitle of this is A Muslim Visionary in the Whirlwind of Colonial Modernity, is succinct, evocative, and compelling encapsulation of Bennabi's intellectual and moral journey. Bennabi may have left us more than 50 years ago, yet his thoughts remain as timeless as they are profound. He sought to understand why some societies were vulnerable to domination while others thrive. I mean, this is essentially Khaldunian, about those subjugated. But from my initial readings, not to include your 2 volumes, Tahir, to me that's a source of great strength, to give that push, that challenge to the Ummah, that you can only be truly independent and mature as a society and succeed as a nation if you can overcome that captive mind being encapsulated by the colonial view. Bennabi, of course, understood that colonialism was not merely an external imposition, it was also an internal ailment made possible by the weaknesses within colonized societies. Those of us from this generation are familiar with the wretched of the earth or pedagogy of the oppressed, which essentially remain quite consistent with, partly with the ideas of Bennabi. I'm referring to Frantz Fanon, which I think Zia can explain better. Unfortunately, we have almost taken it for granted. But to describe this condition, which was coined the term by Malek Bennabi as colonoscibility. I mean, those of you in that Abim generation are very familiar. I've been, expounding this colonoscibility. I mean, the mentality that is submissive, prepared to be colonized. Colonial powers have gone. But those colonized mentality, or what Hussein Alatas referred to as the captive mind in development studies, is still prevalent. So domination, Bennabi argued, was not sustained by brute force alone. It was nourished by intellectual inertia, political stagnation, and social fragmentation. True liberation then was not simply about casting off foreign rule. It was about renewing the very foundations of society. Remember Muhammad al-Ghazali, isti'mar ruhi wa fikri, is essentially that. That's why I have remained steadfast in my view that unlike some others, Bennabi is not a recluse perched on the high tower of intellectual superiority, pontificating on what is, what ought to be. There is also no outward projection of excessive religiosity. On the contrary, spirituality energized from the wellsprings of his deep and profound inner faith. Bennabi has been able to wield his pen, undoubtedly mightier than the sword, in order to articulate his thoughts and beliefs with abiding courage of convictions. It is relentless and unwavering because it is the outcome of an inner struggle of conscience. Is of deep understanding and sense of conviction. Is not political rhetoric, intellectual gymnastics. It stems from probably what Hamlet cogitates, that conscience does make cowards of us all. Now Bennabi embraces his fears with deep compunction, and from that platform of rectitude reminds us that without the moral courage to grasp the guiding ideas of civilization. Now, guiding ideas, Masiri, was one of the theme of my Abim speeches in the late 70s. We will be doomed if we repeat the errors, because then we will be consigned to the dustbin of history. Thus, Bennabi called for a revival, not just in political terms, but in a deeper, more holistic sense, which I term is as Madani or script. To break free from the legacies of colonialism, societies had to dismantle the mindset of subjugation as much as the physical structures of imperial control. This meant rejecting the culture of empire and cultivating what he termed as culture of civilization. A beautiful French phrase that he used. I wouldn't dare try. that is rooted in the ethical and spiritual principles that define human dignity. Now, ethical, moral principles is in a deficit in today's world, in politics, in business, in the academia. And Bennabi called for this revival in a holistic sense. Now he is also able to see through the illusions piercing the rhetoric of progress. Remember, the rhetoric of progress in civilization that colonial powers wielded to justify their subjugation of others. He recognized how modern science and technology, forces meant to uplift humanity, had been perverted into instruments of domination. Now, nowhere is this clearer today than in Palestine, where the tiresome and mendacious claim of defending the only democracy in the Middle East is wielded as a shield to justify the dispossession of an entire people. Modern military technology, surveillance systems, modern bureaucratic state have been deployed in the service of murder and subjugation. Just as in the colonial past, power cloaks itself in the language of security and stability, when in truth it is entrenching displacement and genocide. For Bennabi, this revealed a great disparity or decalage. On one side stood human consciousness and moral conscience. This has to be fortified and strengthened. On the other, the unchecked, inexorable advance of science and technology. Modern societies have been endowed with tremendous power over the natural and human worlds, yet their ethical development has failed miserably to keep pace. This chasm, he warned, breeds dehumanization and imperils our collective future. Bennabi further argued that breaking free from colonialism was far from enough. The colonized had to reclaim their autonomy and rebuild their self-worth, eroded by decades of foreign rule. But the colonizers too had a duty to confront their own legacy, to relinquish the illusion of superiority, to dismantle the mindset that sanctioned domination. Only then could the world bend history's arc towards justice. For Bennabi, true liberation was not merely political or economic. A society that grants political rights yet leaves its people in economic servitude is not truly free. Remember, Ramanan, what Ambedkar said: without social independence, social democracy, independence would be rendered meaningless. Nor is a society that ensures material security while suppressing intellectual and political freedom. Bennabi envisioned democracy as a synthesis where political and social democracy coalesce to ensure both liberty and dignity. This is the essence of Islamic democracy, or mushawara, of gotong royong, a system that frees people not only from external oppression but from internal servitude. So when the Quran declares that God does not change man's condition unless they change themselves, their inner selves, this is as much an injunction to bear responsibility for one's actions and by extension into the arena of politics, clearly a commandment for accountability without which democracy becomes a mere platitude. So I popularized not just democracy, Zamri, democratic accountability. See? It's important for an UMNO leader to nod with me on this. Hence, our Madani framework of governance places paramount importance on democratic accountability. So, ladies and gentlemen, Bennabi understood that real change does not spring from grand ideas alone. It must begin at the level of the soul, where consciousness is transformed, where the individual rediscovers their worth, and where they become an agent of history rather than a bystander. Yeah. It is in this spirit that we gather today, to honor Bennabi and to thank Professor Tahir, to reflect on Bennabi's legacy as captured in this new book, and to inaugurate an institution dedicated to equipping societies with the tools to shape the future rather than be shaped by it. Correct, yeah? I therefore commend IIUM on the establishment of the International Institute of Future Studies, and more profoundly by the presence of Professor Ziauddin Sadra to head this enterprise. A major challenge is a new adventure into the academia, and it actually challenged many of the normative beliefs, and therefore don't be too surprised if it is considered to be a rather contentious or controversial institute. And I wish the Minister of Higher Education well. Now, with sustained commitment, this institute can elevate IIUM's standing as a global leader in future studies and beyond. Now, finally, future studies is not a passing trend. It is a rigorous discipline whose importance grows with each passing year. And I believe again that with the stewardship of Professor Ziauddin Sadra, the Center for Postnormal Policy and Future Studies has played a leading role in developing futures literacy in Malaysia for the last many years. Now, the establishment of IIFS marks a new phase in this effort. The insights of future studies, particularly Professor Sadra's post-normal times theory, have already influenced policy frameworks such as script and Malaysia Madani. I hope this IIFS will build on this foundation, producing thinkers and policy makers ready to tackle challenges still beyond our horizon. My only appeal to get the rector to understand is to calm Professor Zia down, to understand and appreciate that change and understanding will take a little bit more time. So implore for his patience and understanding to ensure that this succeed. Now, intellectual endeavors, again, such as Malek Bennabi's reader and the establishment of IIFS are stepping stones towards reviving the spirit of convivencia. That luminous era of knowledge and exchange that once defined Al-Andalus. It is my fervent hope that Malaysia too, inshallah, will embody this spirit, becoming a crucible of ideas, cultures, and wisdom. Today, as we launch both this book and this institute, we are not merely reflecting on history, we are taking responsibility for the future. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.